Hello, welcome to our show. I'm Dale Matthews. This is Inside News, and today's show is going to be just a little bit different. This is the last time that you're going to see my picture. Oh, don't cry. But what we're going to do is we have Mike Jones with us here. We also have County Commissioner candidate Raymond Smith, and we're going to go through a list of questions that was put out by Brad Converse on the internet, saying, "Well, here's some questions. They're fairly generic that should be asked of all county commissioner candidates." So Mike's going to put on his county commissioner candidate clothes. He's not running for office.
No.
But both Raymond and I are. And so we're going to discuss the issues. We're going to go through this list of 12 questions. We're going to be pretty sprightly about it. And now you don't see me anymore because it seemed to me to be fair that why should I have my picture out there when these two guys don't? So because Raymond's joining us by telephone, we're all going to do it via telephone, virtual telephone. So the first question, Raymond Smith, and welcome to the show, and Mike Jones. The first question, and the way we're going to do it is I'm going to read the question, and then Ray's going to answer first, Mike's going to answer second, I'm going to answer third, and then I'm going to ask the next question. And then it's Ray, Mike, and Dale. Okay, so the first question, gentlemen, is, this one's to you, Ray. How would you define your role as a county commissioner?
Representative of the people, an employee. That's the way I see the job. I think that's the best way to look at it. That's what you are, an employee and a representative of the public. And you're hired to do specific tasks, but mainly to represent their voice.
Mike, what about you? How would you define your role as a county commissioner?
Well, I would concur with that. I think there are a few things that are presumed about being a county commissioner that I wouldn't necessarily go by. I think what is to be done is to make sure that the county departments are doing what they're supposed to be doing. Represent the public. If my constituents, want a particular thing, don't try to buck them too much. I would say that being a watchdog over the spending of the county is a big deal. Try not to get in the way of local business and forget about trying to engineer economic development and just let people pursuing their self-interest do it as they've done for hundreds of years in the past.
I think we need a clean break from the past. A county commissioner should literally be a servant. This idea of when you go into the Ann Basker Auditorium, everyone's got to face you and all the departments come in and talk only to you and everybody's looking only up, literally up to you, that's got to stop. And so the idea is that when you make a report as a county commissioner or as the head of a department, you should be facing the audience, because the audience, the people who are paying your salary, they're the boss. You're simply servants to them. And so, oh, this is our meeting. No, it's not. It's our meeting. We're the public. And so a county commissioner should be a facilitator. A county commissioner should be a servant. Of course, county commissioners can help lead things, but they should only be leading things in a direction where they know that the citizens agree with them. And if they're headed off some way and they look over their shoulder and there's nobody following them, then they're not really leaders, are they? Okay, next question. What in your background, Ray, best prepares you to lead a county of 80,000 diverse people?
Currently, I work as a farrier. I'm a self-employed horseshoer. My work puts me close to the general public. I work for people that range from teenage to near 80 years old. They have varying beliefs and needs and income levels, just like the rest of the population. That's pretty diversified. I really think a key thing that is lost with a lot of people elected to lead, as you would call it, is that they're nothing more than an employee hired to carry out specific tasks. And they need to listen and respond to their employer with the same kind of respect that they expect to get themselves. I can do that.
What about you, Mike? What in your background best prepares you to lead a county of all those diverse people?
I reject the premise of the question, quite frankly. I don't think that there's any need for me to do anything special in order to represent people, no matter what their skin color or income level. I really don't think any of that makes any difference. If I'm not planning to inject myself into their life, what difference does it make? As long as here's my concern. I would want to make sure that I am appropriately representing people and people's interests. And in that regard, stay the heck out of their way. Try not to cost them any more money than we're costing them now, and make a great effort of costing them less money than we do right now. That is in the interests of everybody. Great economies and people's interests are served when they are taken care of economically, in the respect that no one else is hindering them from achieving as much economically as they possibly can.
One of the things that people ask me a lot is, well, now what would you do about certain kind of crisis that they perceive happening in the county? And basically what I've said, I use the same example every time. There are people who say that we've got this crying need to have a juvenile detention center. I totally understand that. And they'll say, but look, people were willing to spend money on a levy to handle pets, abandoned animals, and they're not spending it on the children. That's terrible. I say, wait a minute. This is America. We took a vote, and that's what they decided. They did that cost benefit analysis, and they decided this is what we want. And your argument is, well, they shouldn't want that. Hey, stop telling us what we should feel. If you're a public servant, you're going to be serving those people, and they're going to make the choice. Now, of course, you can have an opinion, and you can try to persuade them. But to lead all those diverse people, they're going to have a lot of different feelings about what they want to do. So you can put out an advisory question on a ballot. You could do a poll, I suppose. It better be out of your pocket and not ours. And when they take a vote, all those times in almost 20 years, and they say, this is what we want to do, you may say, well, that's a stupid thing to do, but they voted. And so your point of view lost. Therefore, it's your responsibility to do the best thing that you can do. Yeah, but they shouldn't want that. But they do. But they shouldn't. But they do. So just suck it up. Serve them the best way that you can. And stop trying to tell people what they should want, because you want something other than what they want. I don't agree with any of that. So that's why I would say the best way to serve those diverse people is to listen to them and stop insulting them by saying that you don't like the decision they've made. By the way, everybody noticed that it doesn't sound, the questions have been given out to people ahead of time, because that's how Brad Converse shared the questions. Here's the questions, and please answer these. But you can tell, I think you can pretty well tell, nobody's reading from any kind of script. So occasionally, I think you'll find in these candidate nights that someone might need to write down House Bill 3453 so they don't say 3459. A couple of bullet points are okay, but one can only hope that they're not reading from some booklet that tells them what my sincere, heartfelt opinion is. Flip through the pages. Oh yeah, here it is. My sincere, heartfelt opinion is, right. It should be, as Mike put it the other day, written on your soul. Okay, next question.
So hey, Dale. I mean,
Yes, sir.
I thought we were going to do questions there. As it seems to be an awful lot of editorializing. Do I get to have a question, answer a question, and then editorialize for a couple of minutes?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, if that's what you wish to do.
I see. Okay.
Okay. All right. So, how would you describe, Ray Smith, how would you describe your decision-making process?
Methodical. I think most poor decisions are made in haste. Um, any decisions we make in life, whether you're at home or at work, you want as much information as possible. So if you're lacking information, you need to have it and as accurate as possible. And when you're dealing with the public should be involved as well. I mean, their input is important. They're your boss. So, if you're making decisions that's going to cost them money, they should be able to weigh in on that. And if they say, why would you do that? Then that's the question I would say is, yeah, why would we do that? So, ultimately, there's obviously some decisions you're going to have to make on your own, or have your own opinion on. But when it comes to money for the employer, most of it's up to them. And when they get to weigh in on something like levies and such, that's their right to have a say and tell you what they want. You shouldn't go against that. I mean, if it's I think if you say no, then that really should carry as much weight as if you say yes. And so the next time they bring it up, if they bring it up right away, basically you're trying to overturn a decision that was made. No different than if you voted it in and people said, we don't like that, let's get together and put it back up and see if we can overturn that. So that's what we seem to constantly face, and I believe that's wrong. So,
Mike, how would you describe your decision-making process?
Well, I have a fairly solid core conservative. That is where my decision making comes from, is the life experience there that has led me to where I'm at politically, and I would hope that I would display that if I were running for office. And then people are making a choice as to whether that's what they want from a commissioner or not. And certainly you can't take a poll of everybody every time you're going to make a decision. So you're going to have to go, well, here is where I'm at. And here is, and listen, anybody who watches this show, I'm an open book. I leave nothing to ambiguity about what I think about government and how it should be run, and what money we should be spending on what. So I would hope that they would have an understanding of that. And my decision-making process, let's just look at this. If legislation is proposed, the number one thing, the very first thing that I would consider is, why are we doing this? Why would we want to do this? Because there's so many things that I think they take whatever comes down the pipeline. They just throw it out there. Okay, we're doing this today. And, you really need to consider, why are we doing this? Is this going to cost us money? Is this superfluous? I mean, do we have the money, the resources to do this sort of thing? If not, forget it. And as a result, I would hope that I could influence the rest of the people on the board with me to do as little as possible.
Boy, do I agree with that. Absolutely. You know, just like everybody in our audience, I have to live on a certain budget. I've only got a certain amount of money. And this idea of printing up your own money, it's hard. You got to lay it out. It's got to dry. You got to, wrinkle it up so it doesn't look like you've made it yourself. It's a hassle. So I don't do that anymore. But the general idea is, to me, should be that it seems obvious, but I don't know anybody that's doing this that's currently in office. You should be spending that money as carefully as you would spend your own money. And if you already have something that's working in a time of fiscal emergency, don't be spending a whole bunch more money on something that you don't need. I mean, well, we can't put it off. We can't kick the can down the road. Of course we can kick the can down the road at a time when we don't have enough money to pay for the kind of law enforcement that some people say is absolutely essential. We're going to have to do that. So decision-making process, first question should be, how much is it going to cost us? And is this absolutely necessary, as you were saying, Mike? The second thing is this really what the people want? Now, I'm used to making decisions without having to consult everybody and their brother. I don't go knock on my neighbor's door. Should I wear this color shirt today? That's not necessary. And I can make tougher decisions too. If nobody else can, of course I will. Yes, I will. I'm a television director, and you make those decisions. But you also work as a team. And whenever the leaders become separated from their team, whenever the leaders are pressing for something that where 80% of the public doesn't want it, you've got a real problem. And then if they're blaming you that you decided that you wanted to vote this way and they wanted you to vote some other place, you've got a really serious disconnect. So decision-making process should be based on what's the best way to serve the people, not only what they need, eat your vegetables, but also what they want. I want the dessert. So we're adults, and if we really want to eat dessert, let's do that. Okay.
Hey, let me interject something here a second.
Yes, please.
Poor Raymond. Raymond is in a situation where this is in debate 101. Always let your opponent go first.
Yes. Well,
and luckily, Raymond is not running against either one of us, so that's.
We flipped a coin, and Raymond said he was okay with this, so that'll teach you to be so easy to get along with, Raymond.
Hey, that's fine. I mean, I'm not in disagreement with you at all. I mean, it's very well spoken. I hold much those same views. I'm very, as most people put it, tight with money, and that's the way I operate. So.
Well, now, Mike is right in that the first person to go is in a perceived disadvantage, but there is another disadvantage to being the second person, because then if the first person, in this case Ray, does a terrific job of answering it, then you're sort of in the position of saying, well, yeah, what he said. So the best position of all is, of course, the third one. That's the one I'm in. The third one.
Which is why Dale is in that position. Yes,
I told you. I always
pick Dale when I flip a coin.
Okay, next one. Now this one's a good one.
Yes.
Have you fully read the U.S. Constitution, the Oregon Constitution, and the Josephine County Charter, and do you agree to uphold them in their entirety? Raymond Smith.
Now, how many yeses? Let's see. Yes, and yes, I do. I do have my own copies. I've read them, and I agree to uphold that. I don't think we have that currently. Well, I know we don't, because there's several violations that with aspects even of the state constitution, and that's I just don't see if you're gonna take that oath that it should mean something more, and I mean you should actually feel that as well. I mean, if you have no respect for the framework of the law, then you're basically it's not going to bother you to break little laws either. And I just don't. I don't agree with that attitude of just setting something aside because you can or you want to. So that's
Well, what about you, Mike? Have you fully read the U.S. Constitution, the Oregon Constitution, the Josephine County Charter, the Family Bible, and the Holy Quran? And do you agree to uphold them in their entirety?
I have fully read the U.S. Constitution. I have not read the Oregon Constitution, not at all. And I realize that in order to take the oath as a county commissioner, you're taking an oath to the U.S. Constitution and the Oregon Constitution. So it certainly is a prerequisite, I would think. Although they don't give you a test on it. But as Raymond said, that doesn't seem to have stopped people from breaking the rules. They don't. It doesn't seem to really matter. In our charter, they in past years have gone to court to try and make sure that they could get away with breaking the rules of the charter, which very much in a lot of cases the amendments mirror our own constitutional Bill of Rights, but the other parts of the Constitution as to commissioner pay and things of that nature have also been thrown by the wayside. And this charter was put together by the people. This was not put together by the government here. This was they had quite a process putting this charter together. And
close as we can get to the founding fathers.
Right, exactly. And
yeah, you can.
And we've departed from that. So, but I certainly, anybody who wouldn't agree to uphold them in their entirety is, not commissioner material, I don't think. Although there is going to be, if you agree. And I'm not sure if they say this, the U.S. Constitution and its law and the U.S. Federal government laws and the Oregon Constitution and its laws. I'm not sure if they make reference to that. I'm going to have to go back and look at it because there could be a little conflict there as it relates to marijuana and perhaps other things.
Yes. And Raymond wanted to jump back in here. Go ahead, Raymond.
Well, I just wanted to say reiterate what Mike was saying. I mean, a lot of that county charter is taken directly from the state constitution, and with respect to commissioner pay, that is right in there. Your tenure, your pay, your compensation, that's the way it's worded, is to be set up in the charter, and it is supposed to be any amendments, repeal, any of that change to the charter is reserved to the people. The county government has no right to touch that. And I see a problem. I've seen it for years when people they have an initiative, and that's one of the processes of changing the charter. And just like any other initiative, they bring something to the voters pass it, and if they find something that conflicts with another law or something else, they'll throw it out. And as a representative, your job is to represent what the people want, and you should, at that point, go back to the people and craft it in such a way that it passes law and still retains as much of the original intent as it possibly can, so that you're not just throwing away what they want, but you're actually doing what they want in a lawful way. And how some of that can be with the charter thrown out, I don't agree with that. and don't see it because it actually reflects the Constitution. And my understanding is that a judge or some statute that the legislature makes, that can't override the Constitution. Otherwise, why is it there? That's your framework.
I think this is probably the most important question of all these questions. What happened in the past, Mike's right, is that the county commissioners of the past went to court and they were up against themselves. There's a county government versus the county government, and they won and lost both. Well, anyway, we all lost. The citizens cared enough to put this to change the charter. And the commissioners decided they didn't like certain things. And so they tasked, we know this now to be the case, they tasked our previous county council to go to court to represent them so they didn't have to do what the people voted for. That's the truth. So what the court says is you don't have to do this. But the court didn't say, well, you've got to do it this other way, which is the way they wanted to do it. They didn't say you had to. They just said you don't have to do what the people say. So Raymond and I did talk about this the other day, and I said, Ray's right. You should go back and you should clarify this with the people. But in the meantime, while you're in that process, there's a simple way to deal with this problem. And that is, if you get two fiscal conservatives in there, they're going to actually stick by the charter. All they have to do is say, okay, we don't have to do what it says, but we're going to do what it says. What? Yeah, we don't have to, but we're going to anyway. Oh, no. Oh, yes. We're going to obey the charter. Now, I've talked with all the candidates. There's only two candidates, and that's Raymond Smith and myself, who have said, we'll take $30,000 a year. Well, now, wait a minute. You don't have, well, as Keith X says, well, I would like to be paid less, but they won't let, of course they'll let you. Well, you shouldn't give me the money to give to charity. Yeah, so you get to keep all of it? Keith, really? So, okay, so here's the deal. They say, well, you don't have to just take 30. You take 30 anyway. Well, then you got to pay all those taxes. Yes, you do. You're going to pay all those taxes? Yes. No, wait a minute. You're going to pay more taxes? Yes, because that's what the people said. And because if you're going to swear to uphold the charter, which you don't have to say, by the way, in your oath of office, you don't have to do that. When Sandy Castanelli came up, she said to the judge, I would like to swear to uphold the charter also. And she said, oh, no, you can't do that. Oh, really? Well, all right. Then throw me out on the first day in office. Take me away in chains. I am going to say yes to the charter. I am going to keep that promise and take only $30,000 in salary. That's it. And all the rest of it will go to charity. Okay, that's great. And, oh, well, you get to pick the charity. Yeah, okay. And also get to pay the taxes. Okay, you're going to stay. And have you fully read the U.S. Constitution? Will you carry out every part of it? No, you can't say no as a candidate. Of course you can. Have you read Article 1, Section 8? Article 1, Section 8 is the enumeration of powers. In the enumeration of powers, it says, it wouldn't even allow Congress to become involved, or the U.S. government to be involved in things like funding hospitals, funding schools, and etc. And maybe you think that they shouldn't, but they are at the moment. So am I going to be a strict constitutionalist? Read that as, are you going to follow exactly what the Constitution says? No, of course I believe in the Constitution, but look, the laws of the United States say you can't have assisted suicide. We have that in Oregon. We voted for that. And whether the U.S. likes it or not, and whether there's a conflict with marijuana laws and right to live or right to die, whatever that's called, if there's a conflict, there's a conflict. But the people have voted. That's the most important thing. So who are you going to obey? The local people, the state people, or the federal people? Well, I'm going to start with the local people because they're my constituents. Yeah, Mike?
I'll tell you that I don't think that the Constitution says anything about your right to commit suicide if you want to. Now, there may be some federal laws, but federal laws and the Constitution are two different things.
You're exactly right. I was talking about Article 1, Section 8, and then I morphed into something else. But there are going to be times when there's these conflicts, and then tie always goes to the runner. The tie does not go to some goofy county commissioner that's sitting up there, as an imperial member of the court. No. The tie always goes to the people, and they've made it very clear what it is that they want. Now, if you're not interested in backing them, don't run for office.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's my opinion. Okay, next one. Gentlemen, starting with Raymond. What do you think is the greatest problem facing Josephine County, and what would you do to address it?
I think the greatest problem is the elected county government we have, and what I'm doing to address it is run for office. I think they don't. I've heard them say, if you have solutions, bring them forth, and I see it as a pointless effort, because no matter what anyone says, it seems to fall on deaf ears, and they've got this tunnel vision for this one thing, and whatever the real reason for that is, it doesn't matter. They're not doing what the people want or the people say, and that's the greatest problem that I see.
Yeah, as Cheryl put it, the people's solutions range from the impossible to the bizarre. Thank you very much for that opinion of your constituents, Cheryl Walker. What about you, Mike? What do you think is the greatest problem facing Josephine County, and what would you do to address it?
Well, I think it really comes down to money. And the issue is, and I'm not under any illusions of being able to do something about all of these things as a commissioner, and I've said this a number of times before, it's not that we don't take in enough money, is that we don't have any control over our costs. We don't have any control over the cost of labor. We don't have any control over cost of education. We don't have any control over, what, commissioners are being paid, apparently. So I think as much of that we could take control of would certainly be a benefit to the people. We have commissioners in there now that are making decisions based on no good objective rationale, like paying $135,000 a year to have water tested for dangers that don't exist. I think a little bit of connection to the people would certainly help greatly in this regard. Like, could you imagine if you're approached by somebody with a proposal to do some testing, and you go, okay, we'll consider your proposal, and then you go around and you go, Viken and Lori here have said that they'll look into this thing for me. You don't have to tell the bidder about that, and then they go check out the thing and come back with their results before you even jump into this situation. And it's because our commissioners don't have a connection to the people that they're not even curious to look into this kind of stuff, and they just take people's word on its face, as to reasons why we should be spending large sums of money. And I think that is a big problem. I think that we need to get a handle on spending. Certainly the sheriff's department needs to get more money, because I personally think that that's a political football. They short the amount that is going to go to the sheriff, and then they complain that the sheriff doesn't have enough money. Well, I think they spend a lot of money in other parts of county government that they shouldn't. And I think it would be fantastic. I don't think it's going to happen anytime in the near future if we could get rid of grants and things that are paid for by money given to us from the state and federal government. Because if you didn't have that, you'd have no further obligations. And I would suspect that a lot of those departments would not even be needed and ultimately disappear for lack of funding. And so I think all of those things to be a step in the right direction. Money and the way that it is spent on the people's behalf is the biggest problem.
Well, to me, I know a lot of people say, well, it's lack of money. I'm not criticizing you, Mike. A lot of people say, well, it's our crisis in funding the sheriff's department. And some people might say, well, you have a lack of heart because you should be watching over the kids or some other kind of thing. To me, it all comes back to something even more basic than that. And if you ever watch this show, you know we've got plenty of evidence, and now the state does too, that the people who are currently running this place don't deserve our confidence because we have caught them just flat out lying a number of times. I mean, just not just an accident, but just saying, like in that one case, well, you doctored the videotape. No, we didn't. And so when you don't trust them, I mean, if you're on the Titanic, the problem wasn't cold water. The problem wasn't just the way the boat was made. The problem wasn't just icebergs. Oh, those were big problems. The problem was that the captain was on this quest to try to make the fastest possible run, and they weren't being careful. And hubris, absolutely convinced it was unsinkable. They called it that.
Yeah.
Well, our commissioners think that they are right, and we're all wrong. 80% of the people, look what happened to the city council. All those lunkheads out there, they're not doing as they're instructed. The biggest problem we have, there's lots of other problems, like not enough money and not enough this and not enough that. The biggest problem we have is the reason we're keeping money away from these characters is we know they're going to waste it. We know they're going to waste it. All this money to put a plaque on a rock, we know they're going to waste it. And when you're in that situation, you can't get anything done. So I've said, and I know Ray has also said, I'm going to say no new taxes, even if it looks like it's a wonderful idea. That is the next question, by the way. Even if it looks like it's a pretty good idea, I think just for confidence, just so people can know they're being told the truth, a 4-year moratorium on the commissioners promoting. And I don't mean, oh, we're not really promoting it, we're quietly doing it behind the scenes. I mean, standing up and saying, we don't like this. Now, it doesn't mean that the citizens can't put it on the ballot. Of course they can. It's America. But to say, no, we really do need a break from this. Now, if we can get a break from this, just a break, and stick with that, and good luck getting any other candidates to say this. 2 of us do. There's 4 of us, actually. There's also Ron Smith and there's Mark Seligman, who have said, I think they're single issue candidates, but you can take that up with them. We're not going to do that. And everybody else is on the fence or way on the other side. Okay. So the greatest problem is a problem of confidence, a problem of feeling as if your captain is serving you, is doing your will, and isn't going to be driving you to the bottom of the ocean. Okay, gentlemen. Starting off with Raymond Smith. What is your position on new taxes? We knew it had to come up eventually.
Yeah, well, you kind of hit on that the last question. Absolutely not. This issue's been before the voters too many times. It's an ongoing fight, basically, of this time here. No matter how they serve it to you, it's still the same thing. And I agree 100% with Mike. I mean, the spending is an issue. I've watched government for my whole life, and it seems like no matter how much money they get, the issue is how fast can you spend it to justify more. And I just don't. I don't agree with it. The people say no, and if you're going to represent the public, then how can you say that you would do otherwise than to openly, say no to any new taxes? And you're going to have to deal with what you get, regardless of the wisdom or ignorance that you whichever way you might want to call it, of the public. That's their decision to make, and they've made it many times. So I just want to get off of it and move on and deal with what you got and figure it out from there. So,
Mike, what is your position on new taxes, as if we didn't already know? New taxes.
Yeah, I'm not for it. I think that if government wants more tax money, then what they're going to have to start doing is a better job of doing with what they have. Listen, everyone who's listening to this, unless they're in government, generally speaking, has to get by on what they make. I cannot count on a cost of living allowance raise in the next year. And as a matter of fact, if the economy goes further south, I may have to lower my rents in order to fill the space that I have. I'm not anticipating that right now, but that's where I have to go. I'm a slave to the economy. The county government is not. You are a slave to it. You must pay a certain amount of taxes. So I want them to live within their means.
Well, my position on new taxes, you fellows won't be able to see this, is up here with this graphic that we showed the other day on our show. Yesterday, I think. My position is above the bar. There are some people whose position is below the bar. Cheryl Walker and Keith Heck believe we definitely need another levy. We've got to have another levy. The people don't know what they're doing. They need to be instructed. They need to be led. They need to be told what to do. I don't agree with that. Stop telling me what I need to feel. On my side, I'm the only candidate that's not on the borderline or below the line when it comes for property taxes. Therefore, putting on my campaign hat, if you feel that we need a break from more new property taxes, there's only one choice at the moment. Now, we think that Joseph Rice is on the borderline because I know that Bill Hunker is, and Bill told us that he was going to, he said he was going to come on the show and he backed out. But we know that Bill would entertain the idea of a levy in maybe a year or two. And because they're supposedly working in tandem, we've got a pretty good idea that that's where Joseph Rice may be too, but he's kind of a secretive guy and we don't know. Okay. We know Raymond Smith on the other side is definitely not in favor of a levy and will commit to that, a new levy. We know that Mark Seligman and we know that Ron Smith are there. So there's four of us. If you want a new levy, or if you think that the way that people have voted over almost 20 years is just stupid and they ought to be forced to decide this again and again and again and again, you have plenty of candidates to don't vote for me. You know, you've got lots and lots of people. Pick the one that you think looks the nicest or the one with the nicest smile. Okay.
I'm Dale Matthews, and I approve this message.
Yeah, well, yeah. So Dan DeYoung, it looks very likely that Dan's going to be running against Keith Heck and against me. And Dan DeYoung, I mean, he was for the grants pass sales tax. I mean, he said afterwards that the people obviously don't want law enforcement. And then, of course, we played back a tape. I want law enforcement. I want law enforcement. They obviously don't want it. Yes, I do. They obviously don't want it. So, no. What is my position on new taxes? I think that it's absolutely essential that at the moment, given the history that our county government has had on this issue, that we need to go way the other direction and restoring people's confidence that we're not just trying to sell them another bill of goods, and that we're not going to go down that route at all. So I say
right, and
no.
That's well said, Dale. I would say that if you're going to if you want people to be amenable to a tax increase, there is a way to do that, and that is to do everything that you can as a government official to not hinder the economy, and that is, lower as much as you can the cost of doing business for everybody that your county impacts. Don't just be thinking of how much money that you need to have from a building permit fee so that you can have more money in your building department. You need to get out of the way and allow the economy to take place. And it would help if they would do that on a state and federal level as well. Because when people have more money and the economy is, kicking great guns, then people will have more money. They give more money to charity when they have more money coming in. They buy nicer clothes, they buy nicer houses, they buy nicer cars, and they're more amenable to taxes during that time. So if you want more taxes, one thing that you can do as government is stay the heck out of their way and try to foster that as much as possible.
Now, I don't see this here, but I'm just because we're friends, all of us. One of the things I think a number of people could say, and I already gave the example of what about the children versus the pets, but there's going to be plenty of people. One of the first questions is going to be, well, what are you going to do? Maybe we'll start with Raymond. This is not on this question, but it's ancillary to this. Raymond, what are you going to do about the current crisis, the current emergency with law enforcement?
Well, I don't see the emergency personally. I mean, I've heard this from you, and it's absolutely right. I don't see any red lights or sirens going off about an emergency. We've been threatened by House Bill 3453, and I think that's a really bad deal. It's going to lead to something else if they go against the will of the public and do that. But I don't see, if the public doesn't see that it's an emergency, I don't see the emergency where it's at. I agree that there probably should be more funding to the sheriff's department, and that historically, not just here, but other places I've been, safety has been used as a lever for taxes, just like I've seen schools used as a lever, because if you want to invoke the children, that's how could you vote against the children, even if you're voting for someone's higher wages? It doesn't hold water when you say there's an emergency and there doesn't appear to be one. That's like saying there's a drought before it happens. Mm-hmm. People are too reactive and too quick anymore to say you've got a disaster that's happened when there has been no disaster. I mean, if you do, then you need to take a look at it at that time, or deal with it the best that you can. But that's kind of the way I am with things. I don't get worked up too much about the impending doom of something as much as I would say, the impending intrusion from the government, because you see that all the time, and that's kind of the way I see the issue.
Well, what about you, Mike? Is this an emergency in law enforcement right now?
Well, I see that you've added a question, like we needed to add a question to fill time.
No,
I've already
it's
been here for about an hour here.
What is your position on new taxes? Is the reason I brought that up. I think that's probably what they're
right. And you know what? And listen, I'll just reflect what Raymond has said and what we've said many times on this program. Clearly, there is not a law enforcement emergency as it would be. It isn't. The people have not defined that. It is only government and its apparatuses in these little organizations such as SOS and Cuffs that have manufactured an emergency situation. Because number one, if there's an emergency, the people feel it and they're squawking. And everybody's talking about it all the time. Guess what? They never talk about it. They never talk about it unless there's a levy on the ballot. That's the only time when they discuss it, and when they're planning to put a levy on the ballot. So, I don't see the law enforcement emergency. As everybody has stated here, I think the sheriff should have more money. And listen, let's cut back the pay of some pencil pushers downtown. Nobody would cry at all. Nobody would feel sympathetic in the slightest if they said, well, we're going to have to let it go a few people down in the office downtown. And you know what? And you know why we don't vote on that? Specifically for that reason. It's sheriff, and listen, when you're living in California, it's sheriff, it's fire, it's schools. They hit those boom, 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 boom. Sometimes in a different order, boom, boom, boom. But it's always the same mantra all the time. The children, oh my God, who's going to put out the fire? Oh my God, who's going to come to your house when they're beating the crap out of you? It's all these things over and over and over. I don't think it exists here. I'm sick and tired of being beaten with that club. Government is disingenuous. They want money just because, and they've got a lot of unfunded liabilities to fund, and that's why they want your money. And unless I can be proven differently.
Here's the question they could never answer. If this is an emergency, why doesn't every meeting start with the report on the emergency? If this is an emergency, why is it the last time the sheriff came in to see the commissioners, he was asking for more gas efficient commuter cars?
Yeah, come on.
Please. Okay, so yes, it's going to be suddenly an emergency when levy time comes around again. But the people have already said, they've already done that cost benefit analysis, and they've said, no, this is not what we want. Well, that's stupid. Well, it's too bad you live here. You can consider moving somewhere else, but this is what they've said. They've said it, well, they don't understand. They voted. This is America. We get to vote on things. Okay. Well, okay. And then the next one is, what is your position? I like to assume a position from down below and then suddenly strike upward. But what is your position on taking action to return federal lands to the states? If you were in favor, how would you take action, Raymond Smith?
Could we skip over 7 there? How do you plan to address the possibility of losing secure rural schools?
I think we did.
I think that's a possibility, right? So sorry about that, gentlemen. Yeah, I think okay. How would you? Why don't you read it aloud there, bud?
How do you plan to address the possibility of losing secure rural schools funding in 2017, which would reduce the county yearly revenue by over $4 million?
Oh, yeah, I do have that available. I don't know why that's not up. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, secure rural schools funding falls back to the O&C funding, and I mean, how long has that been going on now? I mean, you don't hear any progress towards anything. They don't seem to do anything about it. The federal government, they've either breached a contract or they haven't. So my idea would be, shake them up a little bit and let's start rattling some cages. You need to get some, preferably more than one commissioner that's going to push for this and get some support, and just tell them to live up to their contract. They keep beating around the bush trying to draw money from here, there, and elsewhere and piggyback it onto something else and call it something else, whether it's SRS or helium or whatever, and give you a few pennies here or there. If they're not going to, let you use the resources, at least some of it, to make some money off of, then, live up to your contract. That's the number one thing. I haven't seen this contract, but apparently it's there. And what happens to you if you breach a contract? You're in default, and you're either sued, taken, whatever you have is taken. Regardless of what happens, you lose. And the federal government should be held to the same standard that the rest of us are. Any government should be. They're not above the law, as far as I know. They're not supposed to be. So.
Well, Ray's right, Mike. Sorry, I cut and pasted the wrong one. And the question is to you, Mike, how do you plan to address the possibility of losing secure rural schools funding in 2017, which would reduce the county yearly revenue by over $4 million?
Yeah, this is a big issue. If they did come around to it, I'm of the same mind that Raymond is on this. Listen, the O&C Act calls for a very specific thing, and that is harvest at sustainable levels. And, it is very clearly drawn out what sustainable meant to them in their minds is probably something different now. The reason why we get secure rural schools is because of this stupid Northwest Forest plan that was just meant as an incremental step to get us out of the forest and cut us off from the benefit of the forest here. And I think it's totally wrong. The Association of Oregon Counties has proposed a lawsuit against the federal government, and I don't know the specifics of what their planned outcome of that is. But I would say that that needs a thorough looking over before you jump on board with it. Although a number of the counties are jumping on board with that federal lawsuit, and they are throwing money at it, and they're pretty serious about it. So I hope that those people have taken a good look at what the Association of Oregon Counties has planned. I don't know that is. What we need to do. I really don't trust the Association of Oregon Counties. And I would, so it needs to be looked at, but something similar to this, a lawsuit against the federal government to make them, hold to their obligations. SRS is a sham. The Northwest Forest Plan's a sham. I say you rescind the Northwest Forest Plan, you go back to the O&C agreement, and if they don't want to pay us money, then give up the land. One of the two. I think that it's better that people work and earn money and benefit the county that way. But if we have to go back to the O&C plan, the O&C Act, then that contract should be held to.
Yeah, it's clearly a contract, and we know that Lynn County took some action and going into a lawsuit against the states, not the same as the federal government, of course. And the reaction from Simon Hare, from the other two, was nothing. The reaction from Simon Hare was, well, they haven't asked us to join in the class action lawsuit. What are you waiting for? Okay, so we're just sitting here twiddling our thumbs because he doesn't want to join in with them, because that's going to goof up his relationship
Well,
with the state. He's not going to run again, and so he's got his mind on a state or federal position. Mike,
right, and what Dale was saying there, it ties in. The thing is that to be fair, there is little benefit to be gained by our county by jumping in with this. It's like $400,000. However, 400,000 is 400,000. That's 4 deputies, for crying out loud. But the bottom line is that there is state land that's supposed to be managed by the state for the county's benefit in this county, which has virtually been ignored for the last 15 years that we know of.
that's correct.
Perhaps longer than that.
It goes back to that believing in your leaders. If your leaders aren't even going to follow through on a small thing like almost $500,000, oh, it's so small, why bother? You know what? Oh boy, that just goes without saying. But I mean, if you can't, oh, we're fiscally responsible, you can believe us. Well, apparently you're not. So stop telling us this. Just stop lying to us, really. A piece of cardboard would be superior because at least it wouldn't lie to you. Sorry, Ray, but a piece of cardboard is superior to who's running it. I think you're a little bit better than that. Okay, so gentlemen, how would you eliminate fiscal waste in the county, Raymond Smith?
Oh, see, you're skipping over the next one again. I don't know what. Okay.
Am I?
We can take them out of order.
Well, no, we did talk about that
slide,
action to return federal funds.
Yeah, but right, and I think those two are pretty much the same thing.
That's
almost.
right. Okay, so here we go.
Well, those are tied together. It's a little different. I think. I'll just interject this, and then we can move on. But the action to return federal lands to the states, if you're in favor, does tie in with this ONC Act. Where there was an agreement. And if you really want to go by the U.S. Constitution, it states in the Constitution that the federal government is only allowed to own 10 square miles of land, which is Washington, D.C., and they're in control of territories until they become states. Once they're sovereign states, the land is to be turned over to them, and the only thing the federal government can claim is land purchased from the states to construct forts and docks and arsenals, that type of thing. They, by the Constitution,
military bases
are limited. Exactly. By the Constitution, they're limited to that, and that ties in with the miners and the ranchers problem with BLM, because that was invented long after this Constitution and different laws, homesteading acts, and so on and so forth that happened. And so it does all tie together, and the state, you're going to have, there's going to be EPA guidelines you have to follow, watershed issues and clear-cut issues and this, that, or the other thing, that you're going to have to follow some guidelines, federal guidelines too, or whatever. But the bottom line is, if you're going to follow the Constitution, and these people in government, if they take an oath to uphold that Constitution, but yet they won't touch this issue. They don't want to bring it out and say, here's why we can do this. I think because truthfully, they can't. They make some laws in Congress that says they can, but they don't amend the Constitution. The Constitution would have to be amended to address that issue, because that's the framework for your laws. And the state, really, the way the Constitution says, should be in control of those specific lands, and then you, on a local level, would be dealing with them. So that's all I got for that.
And I'll add to that. I will add to that. In addition to the federal government holding those lands while the states are still territories, and the military bases in the 10 square miles in DC, they also had the charge of disposing of those properties for two benefits. They disposed of the properties because they were held in trust to cover public debt. And when public debt was satisfied, they were to return the balance of those lands to the states in which they existed. And so we haven't done that. And and apparently it doesn't matter what the Constitution means anymore. But I personally am in favor, and there are a number of other politicians federally that are in favor of returning lands to the state. I don't think you'll find any in the state of Oregon that believe in that enough to put up a fight about it. Anyway.
That's the real question, isn't it? And I'm going to weigh in on this one too. Even if let's take the very worst scenario, and that is that it won't make any difference at all. Do you represent the people or not? And if the people are saying, we want you to do something, well, as Cheryl puts it, well, it won't do any good, we'll always lose. Listen, do you represent us or not? And if you represent us, even if you're taking a stand that just pleases the local people, what's wrong with that? Take a stand that makes the local people feel like you're on their side, and stop defending Go ahead.
Well, yeah, if you're going to take up the fight for the people, you might get a black eye, but that's the way it is. I mean, you get in there and give it your best shot, not just take the stand that trying is the first step to failure. I mean, that's ridiculous.
That's right. That's Homer Simpson. Trying is the first step toward failure. The important thing is if they want to maintain a wonderful relationship with the governor and with people in Washington, D.C., then please move there, because you're supposed to represent us. And you should be worrying about what is your relationship with the local populace and not just the members of the Rotary Club. Okay, so gentlemen, we're going to go just a little bit longer than usual. Mike has never seen such a thing on our show. How would you eliminate fiscal waste in the county? Can you answer that in 3 words or less?
Less would be no. Okay, here's 3 words. With an axe, not a knife. The thoughts I have on that is to, as a commissioner would be, I would want an audit of every department, very thorough audit, and that would probably require some independence to that.
Yep.
And it should be available to the public as well, and you want to see every dime that's taken in and where it's going, and figure out why that's there. And if the public comes up and says, "Hey, what is this?" and you don't know, it's like, "Yeah, tell me, what is this? Why is it there?" And that would be the first thing I would want to look into is, what have we got? Where is it going? And why is it going there? And then you can start eliminating and carving from there. So,
what about you, Mike?
Yeah, I agree. I've given this example a number of times, and I always thought it would be a great idea. I was a big fan of this show called Bar Rescue, and you know, and there are a bunch of shows like it. There's one they do for hotels, one they do for restaurants, and they come in and they observe for a little while, watch how these people are doing business, and then they sit down with them and go, "Listen, here's what I see the problems are." You know, and these people are like drill sergeants. They whip these people into shape, and in many cases return these people to profitability and efficiency. And I would like to see that done with all of these departments, because I'd be willing to bet that you could do a better job with fewer people. You know, if government, and they'll say, "Oh, we've already cut it all the way down to the bone." Sure you have. Sure you have. That's what you hear, you know, no matter what you ask these people about.
Where'd the $135,000 a year come from?
Right, exactly. And there's a number of other examples that we've seen regarding that as well.
Where to go?
So I would say, just as he was saying, it would have to be an independent audit, because I'll tell you what, this you know, Arthur O'Hare guy, I wouldn't trust him as far as I could throw him with one arm. You know,
really, you're going to have to. There'll be shredders going all night long.
Yeah, that's right.
Certain way.
Well, here's the problem. The staff inside government, both city and county, they have an agenda, and their agenda is give us more money. That is what their agenda is. They don't care about you. They don't care about your pocketbook. They don't care if your property taxes get quadrupled. They do not care. They just want their more money, and they're going to keep pushing until they get it. So I agree. You know, let's turn them upside down, shake them, and you know, until all the nuts fall out.
You watch this show, and you know we're constantly out there pointing out the fiscal waste and the bad decisions that are made, and we do, as we just did the other day. These are just the things that we know, and look what we found out about the executive sessions. We're not even allowed in. I mean, we did that just for, you know, just based on measuring the emanations from the residual radioactivity left in the room. Okay. So, and there still was enough for the state to take action, which could end up theoretically in jail time. It won't, but it could. Okay, so if you wanted that kind of attitude, it doesn't mean just vote for Dale. Stop it. It means vote for people that would have that kind of attitude. Just imagine that someone with the attitude that Ray and Mike and I are showing on this show today was actually in office. Wow. I mean, number one is you would be informed. You would be informed maybe more than you want to, but you can turn it on or turn it off. Don't watch it. It's okay. But there would be no end to the idea of holding up good examples like Scott Chansey and this new lady at the Parks Department, their new clerk, and talking about what a wonderful job they're doing. And they get in trouble for this because people that are around them are going, well, why are you getting attention? Because we're good guys and you're not. That's why, to be blunt about it. Okay, and holding those people up and then talking about folks who do the opposite and to do something about it. This is going to take a little while. This isn't going to be done overnight, and you're not going to suddenly trust your county government just because it's a new bunch of goofballs that are in there. You're going to need to see with your own eyes that this kind of thing is being done. But this show won't stop. If any of us are elected, it doesn't mean that suddenly we're going to stop. We're continue doing this show. Oh, really? Oh, really? Yes. It's a valuable thing to know what's going on. And you depend on the courier. No, I'll just watch Keijo, listen to Keijo. No, we need to continue doing this stuff. And so that's how to eliminate fiscal waste is first you shine a bright light on it. And then when you see something, I don't know, just seems like common sense. Would you do something about it, please? Okay, here's another one. This should go fairly quick, I think, although it's a big thing. How do you plan on addressing homelessness and crime in the area? Raymond Smith.
Yeah, that's two different things. And in the area, well, as a county commissioner, homelessness is usually that's a city issue, and the cities are responsible for their own issues and ordinances. That's better addressed at that level than the county level.
Well, I like that answer,
in
Mike.
my opinion.
What about you, Mike?
Listen, I agree in that. Of course, he didn't finish. He was just talking about homelessness there, and I'll let it go back to him. But the homelessness, first of all, why is government, trying to mitigate homelessness? Why don't we just try to make the economic climate better, and
Yes.
those who have the inclination to climb out of homelessness will do so, and the rest of them are refuse, and we need to get rid of them. Back to you,
Okay.
Raymond.
And did you have more that you wanted to say about that, Ray?
Yeah,
Well, it was
that's what I
homelessness
meant
and
by-
crime.
It's homelessness and crime.
and
Yeah.
crime. Yeah, and crime and that's kind of a bizarre question. So what they're doing is relating to crime to homelessness, which there is a certain amount of that. I'm sure. What kind of crime? I don't know. I mean, are people stealing food or what they're doing? But once again, I mean those issues belong to the city. I mean, there's a small amount, I'm sure, of people that camp on county grounds somewhere, and if you're on state lands or something, you've got like 14-day limits, on state or federal ground, where somebody, if they know you're there, might come and move you along to the next spot. But cities, I mean, if they enact ordinances against certain things, then it becomes a policing matter, and once again, that's not the county's deal. If they break an ordinance and then the police are involved, it's not. I don't see where the county commissioners are going to do anything addressing homelessness. I mean, like Mike says, if your economic problem gets better, if it does improve, and I know this county has been historically depressed, why anyone would want to move here just to be homeless here, I don't know, but
Because you can sleep in the park.
I suppose I've never tried that, but anyway, I just don't see that it's really the issue for the county to deal with.
And
Listen,
listen,
go ahead, Mike.
I'm sorry. That's a good point. The thing is, we quite often want to get entangled in doing too much, and
Yes.
if it sounds like it's a good thing that we ought to be doing, if it's compassionate, we should all be involved in it. No, not necessarily. Why don't we just have the commissioners do what they're supposed to do and stop sticking their nose into other things that's none of their business? Now, in terms of homelessness, I already said what I said about that. And I do mean what I said about that. If you're not upwardly mobile, if you're not looking to get out of homelessness, now listen, someone who's homeless, who doesn't outwardly make themselves a problem to the community, then it doesn't matter if they're homeless or not. If this is a nice enough person, I say you treat people with respect. If there's jobs available, you want to hire these people and let them get upwardly mobile out of their conditions. That's something that's happening on the down on the street level between people. It has nothing to do with county government. And there are a number of these the homeless downtown that are going out of town and camping on county property and trashing the place out. And I wish that the sheriff's department can get involved and run those people out of there. Listen, we need to redefine what compassion is, and just handing somebody a free meal every day and allowing them to continue in their destructive to the local economy's situation there. That's not compassion. It's not compassion for those people that you're giving it to, and it's not compassion for those people that have to deal with all the people you've attracted by handing out free stuff to them. So knock it off.
We got to separate this problem into two parts. One is there are a lot of people in this area that feel very uncomfortable that oath keepers are out in the forest with guns. It took us forever to get there, okay? So the fact that somebody's out there, just get over it, okay? And the same thing with people, well, I don't like the fact that somebody doesn't have a home. Hey, you know what? If somebody does have a home and they're throwing trash all over their yard, then there are rules about that. And if somebody doesn't have a home and they're throwing trash all over the park, there are rules about that. Now, the fact that these people want to or are forced to by poverty or mental illness or whatever to live in a park, if there's a rule against living in the park, then you do something about that. But there's no rules in the state of Oregon that says that you can be stopped for loitering and this kind of stuff. There's somebody says, oh, yes, there. Listen, here's what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is, if this is a personal choice on their part, or they have no other choice they feel other than to live in poverty, you've got two choices as I can see. One is lay off and just only go after them if they're creating a mess that you have to deal with. Not a mess in your mind, but an actual physical mess. The other thing is, maybe if there are jobs available that are created because of private enterprise, not because of government, it does the opposite. It sucks jobs away. It sucks jobs. It takes your money and turns it into something else, into trash for themselves. They're the real trash distributors. So what you do is you just, I've been to plenty of meetings in Illinois Valley. Well, we don't like the fact that they're sitting out there drinking a beer. And so I asked them, I said, now, when you have this Labor Day parade, I see people along the route drinking beer. Yeah, well, that's different. Now, why is that different? Well, those are fine, upstanding citizens that are drinking beers. Hey, you know what? You can stuff that someplace. You don't want to see somebody that looks a little scruffy to you drinking a beer, but it's okay if the guy is a member of your club and drinking a beer along the parade route.
Well,
that's just the typical double
apply
standard.
the law across the board.
Apply the law across the board. Just be fair with these guys. If they're urinating, defecating in public, don't exaggerate it like Cheryl Walker says. Well, they were filling up the planters. They weren't filling up three huge planters. They were not doing that, okay?
Yeah,
so
if they're doing it at all, it's a problem to me.
Yeah, okay. So, look, it is something that's going to need to be handled on the local basis, and if there's something that the county government can do, it's to remind the local people that just on a private basis, look, don't go clubbing these guys. Don't go rousting them out just because you don't like their lifestyle. This is some cases they have no choice. Other cases they chose to live this way. If they're not causing you personally a big mess on the stoop of your store, then don't bother them. If they are doing
however, the problem is in Cave Junction, in many cases, they are doing that. And it has to be dealt with. And you rouse these guys and you say, listen, that's not going to be tolerated around here. If you give them the idea that, hey, everything's cool, man, just go, hang out here wherever you want, then they'll be shooting up on the street and crapping and peeing all over the place. And you're just going to have to deal with it. I say you take a hard line against stuff like that. You want to do stuff like that, go do it somewhere else, pal. And you know what?
I agree with you 100%. Their problem in Cave Junction is they have a contract deputy. Cave Junction is only so big, the main drag, and where people are mostly complaining is, well, right here along the main drag, you can see them. So you drive up and down the main drag, and when you see it, you pull over and you say, you can't do that here. That's all. It's not against the law to be homeless. It is against the law to defecate in public when you're homeless.
Okay, listen, I come at this from a very libertarian point of view.
Okay,
you can do what you want to do as long as it's not hurting anybody. And as soon
Yep.
as you are becoming a problem to somebody else, that's where your rights end. Now, listen, if something happened to me, and all of a sudden I was dead broke, I had no home, you know what? There are ways to go about this sort of thing in a dignified manner. If I'm homeless, and number one, I would try to get the heck back out of that as fast as I could. And you know what? I'm a pretty capable guy, so I can do that. And so I would do that. But if it came to me needing to defecate or need to urinate, I will go do that somewhere where I know nobody is looking and it's not a problem to them. But when you care so little about yourself and other people that you're doing that on the street, I got a problem with that. And I think everybody should have a problem with that. Take a hard line. Hey, listen, don't take a soft line with these people. Listen, you are required to have a certain level of human dignity. Now, for crying out loud, pull up your pants, wash your clothes, take a bath, do certain things. And you know what? I'm not going to read somebody the riot act for not being that way. But listen. Lack of standards is how we get to this sort of situation. When they just decide that, hey, I'm not going to brush my teeth today. I'm not going to take a bath today. I'm not going to put on clean clothes today. And sooner or later, you don't do anything today, and then you're sleeping on the street,
Or running a TV show like this one.
Right, exactly.
Right. Okay. All right, gentlemen. 2 more questions.
Hallelujah.
How do you propose we improve our local economy, Ray Smith?
Well, my opinion on that is the government's really good at spending money. They don't typically make money, so that's a difficult thing. To improve by government means, other than I think Mike's said that this in the past, is by making things a little more friendly. Geographically where you're at can be a lot of problems here. I mean, there's really no manufacturing, and without the timber industry or a mining industry or whatever, this is it's not as much an agriculture county as it is a timber county. I know that's tied together, but with that gone, you're left with a service community, a service county, and you look at what's here. I mean, you've got some shops and some stores. We've got a Winco that opened up, but yet another store. And without the production of something, if you ever did get back to any kind of timber removal off of land in this county, one thing I would like to see, and I know the state constitution has something in there back in the 80s when they started exporting raw logs to different countries. It was timber was taken off of public land and it was processed somewhere else, and they actually put the state constitution, and it was pending legislation from the federal government. But there's a lot of if you really had some protection for the people here, if you're going to remove timber from this county, if it could be processed here, you would if there was a buck to be made, somebody with the wherewithal would open up another mill, and that would have to be someone else. It's not the county doing it. The only thing they could do, if legally possible, would say, hey, you got to give first shot to this timber being processed here, And if there was a steady stream of, timber where you could guarantee a log deck, you're going to have somebody that says, well, hey, I can make a buck. I can hire some people and we can make some money off of this. So, other than that, I mean, government just to take your money and give it to someone else, that doesn't work. I mean, they just spend money. They don't make money. So that's
and take off an administration fee. How about you, Mike? You've got strong feelings about this.
Yeah, and listen, I agree with Raymond. This is not government's business. Get the hell out of the way. Winco and Red Robin were enticed to come here because for some period of time, the Grants Pass City Council said, "Hey, let's incentivize these people by giving them a massive discount for coming in here." I'm all for that. It creates jobs, but do it for everybody. Don't just make special exceptions for big companies coming in here. And ultimately, a lot of this, in terms of proposing, to improve our local economy, we have an artificial economy here because of the federal and state boots on our neck. And, until those are removed, you're not going to have what sort of real economy could exist. So to the degree that you could help facilitate getting that off of us, that is what government can do. Otherwise, they are just a money consumer, as Raymond said, and these economic development programs are a joke. They redistribute wealth from the poorest in our county. Those are the people that play these lottery games in the false hope that they're going to strike it rich and give it away to your friends. That's a crappy way of generating economic growth, that's for sure.
Well, two things on this from me. One is, at the Cave Junction meeting, I said to the commissioners that the latest survey shows that the reason people are coming here, when you think about it, we could use some common sense. They're coming here because they have relatives here, and we're talking about a tourist economy, or because they have friends here, or they're driving their way through and they got tired and they needed a place to stay overnight. You cannot, unless you put up a big sleepy bear, sleep here overnight, and they're going to be up early the next morning and out anyway. Maybe they'll eat at Denny's, okay? Mm-hmm. But there is no way you can, if that's true, if the survey was right, and then Cheryl, well, it was only 1 month, it was only 400, both things completely false. We first stop lying to us, okay? That's really important because we can't deal with any statistics if you're going to lie about them. So stop lying about them. If it's true, then that is not the savior of our community, because you cannot say, oh, when was the last time you visited your aunt? Because their aunt may live in New Jersey. And so this is not doing us any good, okay? So, and the other thing is that if it's true, as the commissioners keep swearing, that the reason that people aren't moved, the companies aren't moving here, people aren't coming here to visit, is because of badcounty.com. But the other reason is that, well, because of our emergency situation with law enforcement. Then do what other counties do, and you give that economic development, because, see, it's the sheriff not having enough patrols that's destroying our economic development. You give it to the sheriff. Now you have solved two things. You've got more deputies on patrol, and you're improving the economy, right? Because it's an emergency, right? Mm-hmm. Oh, no, well, we don't like that. Why don't you like that answer? Because you stink. Uh-huh. Thanks. All right. One last one, gentlemen.
Yay.
Raymond Smith. What have you already done? We know you shoe horses. What have you already done to make these platforms, these ideas, a reality?
Oh,
not easy.
That would no. Well, it is really. I mean, the thing that I've done is sign up to run for county commissioner.
It makes you a rarity, buddy.
That's the best thing I can say, because a lot of times when I vote, more often than not, it makes no difference. it seems like it makes no difference, even though it may go your way, it comes right back. And if you go to these meetings to voice your opinion, you're either at some point belittled, or in not these words called ignorant, or told that you're wrong. Not just that someone disagrees with you, but you're wrong. So with those type of people, it really is pointless. And then you have to go back the next week or something and try to rebut the issue. And so running for a commissioner, that's the best I've got as far as to make the platform a reality, at least from the platform as far as my point of view, should I be elected. So.
Well, I think you should. What about you, Mike? What have you already done, Mike, to make these platforms a reality?
Well, yeah, not a whole lot. I mean, generally speaking, well, it's my answer. Let me have it. Generally speaking, I'd say that, I wax eloquent about the issues locally here for every night, the last 400 plus shows in a row. So I think that I'm doing my part in that regard. I would have poo-pooed that here last year, but I run into a lot of people, and no matter what you think about Dale or I, we are shaping opinions in this community by voicing our opinions, by studying deeply what's going on in local government. We know more than most people do. And if you are watching the show on a regular basis, then you probably share in that brain trust. And, I think that is the most beneficial thing that you could possibly do to help enact any of the things that we've talked about here tonight, is know what's going on in local government and be vocal about it.
I agree. The first thing starts off with, you have to understand what's happening. I mean, you need to understand it in context would be nice. And in order to do that, if you can't attend all those things, you need to at least listen to someone who has attended all those things. And that's us. Okay. That's me for, since I moved here in the year 2000, watching these guys. I think you need to have somebody that has an idea of what's happening and won't take 6 months to learn the ropes. It would be nice if somebody came in and knew what they were doing right away. Because if there are two brand new commissioners, well, since Simon Hare has been there before, he would automatically end up being the chair. Is that really what you want? Simon Hare as the chair of the Board of County Commissioners? So who else are you going to pick? Let's suppose it was Ray and I. I could run the meeting. I know better than Keith does, which is damning with faint praise, about what's supposed to happen in the meeting, what's supposed to happen next, and how to follow the law, which would be a start. At least not breaking the law would be nice. So what have I done to make these things a reality? We tell you what's going on. We follow through with you. We uncover stuff that's not being reported any other place. How would you like that in a county commissioner? I think that it makes some kind of sense to do that. I would like to say good night to everybody. Thanks for sticking with us for so long. Hope that you found this interesting on Facebook or on badcounty.com. That's why we started it, so that we could tell you what's happening. That's why we're continuing, and not just complaining, but also coming up with, I guess they must not watch this show, coming up with alternatives, with ideas. Here's Raymond Smith that's running for office. I think he's a good guy. There is some hope, and especially centering on the fact that if you get two fiscal conservatives in there that are dedicated to, common sense and obeying the law, this is light years ahead of where we are right now. But of course, as I've said, so would a piece of cardboard. Thanks, everybody.